Hello everyone. Here we are going to start our webinar today. Let me see if I don't want this closed caption. How I can get rid of this again. Okay. Hello Christian. Hi, can you hear me? Christian, hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Miss Ella, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So very good microphone there. Okay. Elisa, you can unmute your microphone. Mr. Fisija, you can hear me? Fisija, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Franely, hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Okay. Very well, thank you. We have Glenda, we have Mark, Nicole, thank you for coming. Ruby, can you hear me?
Hi, Dr. G.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are going to start in a few seconds, okay?
Sure.
So we have so far 10 students. Hopefully they are going to populate more because this webinar is going to be important, and I'm going to remark from the very beginning what I want everybody to remember for the next examinations. Okay. All right. So one thing I want to tell everyone is that this webinar is going to be. If I open microphones, I have some microphones open, but if okay, so that's what I'm talking about. So I need to turn the microphones off
Sorry,
because.
that's my dog.
Okay. Okay. So please, I'm going to open the microphone to everybody and tell me. I'm going to close it in a few seconds, but I want if somebody have a questions or a question, just let me know. I'm going to talk about fundamentals a little bit about how is your progress in the webinars in the in the journals and the EIQs. So if you have any questions, just let me know at the end. Okay. All right. So let's start our webinar. There is one option there that you can raise your hand. We are going to raise your hand, and actually, when I'm going to make some break of a couple minutes, we are going to go over the questions that can be written or can be you can speak up, but everything that you're going to say, everybody is going to hear it. Okay, so I want just to make that a special note. All right, so we are ready. We are going to start. How many we have? We have 9 students now. They're going down. I don't know. There are less students now. Okay, so hopefully they are going to come. Yes, believe me, that is going to make a difference in your grades in your quiz next quiz. All right, so I'm going to start muting everybody. Okay. Okay, I'm looking for somebody who doesn't have noise in the background because sometimes the audio is gone. So I want somebody who can tell me, or you can text me my phone if if something happens. Sometimes the audio is gone, so just let me know. So I'm going to put one person who I can see there is no noise in the background. So just in case, but if I hear noises, I go. Okay, if I hear noises, I'm going to just turn it off. All right, all right. So here we have Ella. Ella, I'm open your microphone. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. If you are going to make some sounds, just let me know. No problem at all. There is no problem at all. I'm not going to make you mute neither. I mean, silence all the way. If you have somebody have a questions, you can raise your hand or just let me know if the audio is gone. All right, so let's start. I'm going to start to record the webinar. Give me a second. Okay, let me see. Wait a second. Sharing and oh. Welcome everyone to the webinar of Anatomy Physiology. Today we are going to talk about the muscular system and the nervous tissue and the brain. Okay, so please pay attention, take your notes. You can use your the same PowerPoint that we are using in classroom. Okay, so let's start. All right, so here we have, I'm talking about this part of the, let me see. Oh, okay. Let me see. Okay, so red is okay. So here we have the muscle. Muscle, we are going to talk about the three different types of muscle. Okay, so we are going to make a small summary here. And then I'm going to ask you some few questions that you are going to be able to correlate. All right, so first of all, these three type of muscles are going to be similarities and differences. The similarities, for example, a smooth muscle that is an involuntary muscle. The cardiac muscle is another type of involuntary muscle, and the striate muscle is the voluntary muscle. Okay, so what is the similarities and differences? First of all, we have single nucleus in the smooth muscle, and that is similar to the cardiac muscle, that is a single nucleus. Okay. And we have striations. Striations are going to be, where is striations here? So a striate muscle that is basically very prominent on the voluntary muscle, that is similar to the striate muscle of the heart. So we have multiple striate muscle striations where we have a lot of myosin and actin, right? And here we have some few, but actually that is similar between the cardiac muscle and the striate muscle. Okay, so for example, somebody, if I ask you, what is a muscle that is a striate muscle and involuntary, right? So if you see here striate muscle, probably you're going to get confused because striate muscle is voluntary, right? And involuntary is actually the smooth muscle and the cardiac muscle. Which type of muscle have the two properties? That they have striations and they are involuntary muscle. The answer is going to be the cardiac muscle, right? Cardiac muscle, for example. That is the way. So that's why you need to know the differences between these three types of muscle. Just to finish this, smooth muscle or involuntary muscle, striate muscle is called the skeletal muscle, or voluntary muscle, or striate muscle. So they have three ways to call the same thing. And the cardiac muscle is cardiac muscle that is an involuntary muscle. Okay, involuntary muscle. All right, so another difference that are characterize the cardiac muscle is this. the intercalated discs. Intercalated discs. These intercalated discs are going to be junctions that are going to be between cell to cell. These cells are going to have a very strong union, a strong junction, sorry, between cell to
Doctor,
cell.
are you able to just mute me real fast? Sorry.
Sorry?
Thank-
Sorry, I cannot hear you. What you said?
Or never mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so let's continue. Here we have the muscles that we are going to talk today. We have, for example, in this, the one muscle cell is equal to, say, one fiber, okay? So each of these, can you see like a spaghetti or noodle here? So this is one fiber. This is one cell of the muscle. One fiber, one muscle cell. Here where we have the striations, the multinuclei is one cell, is only one cell. A group of pencils or cells together you grab in your hand, you're going to have a group of pencils grabbing as a group. And this group of fibers or muscular fiber are going to form the fascicle. So we have fiber number one, then it's going to create the fascicle. So here, for example, I put here fiber. This means many, in math means, exponent. So many fibers are going to form the fascicle. And now, if we have one fascicle here, this is one fascicle, another, and these fascicles together, if you put it together, they are going to form what we call the muscle, okay? So I don't think it's any problem with that. Each structure is going to have a cover or a membrane that is called, in this case, the one who cover just the fiber is going to be called the endomysium. Now, the ones who cover all a group of fibers, like a group of pencils in your hand, are going to be called the perimysium. And all the fascicles together, if you wrap around all the fascicles together simultaneously, they are going to be a membrane surrounding all the structures are going to be called the epimysium. I guess that is clear. So one thing is that endomysium, each endomysium, that is a membrane covering the fiber cell, are going to project towards the tendon. So each fiber is not the fiber itself, is the endomysium, okay? Is the endomysium. The tendon do not have muscle cells. No muscle cells. The tendon do not have muscle cells. What is going to contain the tendon is the cover of the fibers, the cover of the fascicles, and the cover of the muscle. So that means that this is the junction of all the endomysium, perimysiums, and epimysiums. All the endomysiums of each fiber are going to be here. Each perimysium of every single fascicle are going to be here. And the membrane surrounding the whole muscle is going to be called, the epimysium is going to be here. So the tendon is a connective tissue. Okay, tendon is a fibrous connective tissue that is going to be connected to the bone, So that is the form that the muscle is going to get attached to the bone. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so here we have the myofilaments. Myo means muscle. Filaments are actually structures that are located inside the muscle. If you remember the pictures we was talking here, this what I just wrote is the myosin. It's a protein. Don't forget, it's a protein. And the other ones who are in between are going to be the actin. So these are going to interact to each other. So they are going to close. They are going to just have like a small hooks here that are going to get attached to the hooks of the myosin, and they are going to produce the contraction. And okay, so we have here the myosin names that you need to remember is the myosin. It's a protein. What is myosin? It's a protein. Another one is the actin, that is a protein, and the troponin. Troponin is, if we have the myosin here and we have the actin here, okay, so this is going, the troponin that is on the in between them are going to block. They are going to be like a linking the myosin and the actin, so making the actin and the myosin not able to interact. When the calcium is coming, and that is reviewed already, when the calcium is coming, calcium is taking the troponin away. And what happened? The actin and the myosin, they are not going to have this blockage, and they are going to just interact. So it's the calcium who is the one who removes the troponin between the actin and the myosin in being able to be interacting or make the muscle contract. Okay, so we have here we have something important. I need to stop here a little bit. The neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular. So please listen to the name. Neuro is nervous system. Muscular, junction. So this is the cell membrane. Here we have some structures that is coming in every single fiber. And here we have the nerve cell who is going to interact with the NMJ. What is a NMJ? NMJ is a receptor. It's a protein actually who has receptors, spaces where are going to accommodate, let's put it that way, the acetylcholine. So every single fiber are going to have this neuromuscular junction. Okay, so what is a neurotransmitter? Neurotransmitter is anything else than a protein, but it's called neurotransmitter. Why? Because this is a protein produced by the nerve cell. So nerve cell. So remember the primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary protein. So these cells are going to produce these proteins, but because they're forming in the nerve cell are going to be called neurotransmitters. Why neurotransmitters? Because it's going to transmit a message. Which neurotransmitter we need to always think about well, for this part of the course is the acetylcholine. So these are the acetylcholines here inside. So that is a neurotransmitter, is called a neurotransmitter. So this is going to go through the axon, and they go to the terminal axon, and they are going to be released towards the NMJ. So what is going to be released? The acetylcholine. What is acetylcholine? A neurotransmitter. Who produced this neurotransmitter? A motor neuron. A motor neuron. Motor means activity, right? So those are the ones who produce the movement of the muscle. So concept here that we need to remember. Neurotransmitter are proteins produced by the nerve cell. They are going to travel towards the body, then the axon, then the terminal axon, and they go to an area called the synapses that we're going to see next class, and they're going to release the acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is going to stimulate the neuromuscular junction, neurotransmitter. All right, so we have synaptic cleft. We are going to see next class about that. I'm not going to ask for this quiz, but this is a space between the terminal axon and the neuromuscular junction. Okay, so there's a space that we are going to call this synapses. We are going to see that later. All right. All right, so just remember, please, here we have in this cartoon, we have the terminal axon. Here we have the neuromuscular junction. Can you see this? This is the neuromuscular junction here, this area. And here is where they are going to be the receptors. They are going to accept. They are going to wait for the acetylcholine that is released by the nerve cell. Okay. All right. So here we have action potential. Action potential, please, I want you to know very clear this, is the electrical impulse produced by the nerve cell, is the electrical impulse. I put here because the electrical impulse are going to travel in the saltatory, and please open eyes, saltatory way. So they are going to jump between the Schwann cells. They are going to jump, making faster the electrical impulse. So what is action potential? You can write it down just in simple way. Is how the nerve cell produce electrical impulse. Okay. How the are going to electrical impulse. Just a moment, please. I need to do something here. Okay, we have 13 already. Okay, so hopefully they're coming more. Okay. Okay, so action potential. What is action potential? How the nerve produce electrical impulse. Why do we need the electrical impulse? The electrical impulse is the one who is responsible to be able to release these neurotransmitters that are in the terminal axon, releasing, and that is going to be able to release the acetylcholine. Okay. All right, so we have the proteins again that we was talking, the actin, the myosin, the troponin. I don't want you to remember this, troponin, tropomyosin. This is another type of protein, but the main and the useful names that we are going to need are these three. Okay, let's keep going. So here we have the terminal axon. So please, I don't want you to get confused. Terminal axon, they can be called sometimes the terminal bottom. So terminal axon or terminal bottom. So can you see this space between the terminal axon? This is the nerve, and this is the neuromuscular junction. All this is the neuromuscular junction. And you can see there is some spaces here. And here we have some granules coming out from the terminal axon. So these granules are the acetylcholine. The acetylcholine. Okay, the acetylcholine. The acetylcholine is going to look for these receptors. These receptors. Where are these receptors? In the NMJ, in the neuromuscular junction. In the neuromuscular junction. Okay. So then what happened when the acetylcholine is going to be released by the terminal axon? These receptors, what they're going to produce is the initiation of the contraction of the muscle. Just to see the big picture, please. This is the cell membrane of a fiber. So let's suppose it's like this, something like that. Okay. So this is a fiber, and here we are going to see the striations. The striations. Here we have the myosin, and here we have the actin. All this is the actin. And this is the myosin. Look at this, myosin, and this blue is the actin. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, the troponin is going to lock. It's locking the action. Is blocking the action of the actin with the myosin. Blue, all these blues are actin, and this is purple is the myosin. So what is going to happen? The calcium is going to come to this area, and is going to grab the troponin and take it away. So they are removing the troponin. So they are going to unlock the actin and the myosin. So what happened? Contraction is going to occur. So the calcium is coming, and actually calcium is coming because of the sarcoplasmatic reticulum, or the sarcoplasm, that is a sac inside the muscle cell, is going to contain a lot of concentrations of calcium inside. So what happened? The T-tubules, if you have the cell membrane, you think that is like that of the striated muscle? No. The cell membrane is going to be literally like this, like small indentations that are coming in and out, in and out. They're going to come in and out. So see how they project inside and then come back up. So these are the T-tubules. These are the T-tubules. So the T-tubules are like tunnels that are going to get into the area of the cytoplasm. So here we have that the calcium is going to be who is going to order the calcium to come out from the sarcoplasm towards the cytoplasm. All this is cytoplasm of the cell, cytoplasm, in order to release the calcium. So that is the sodium. The sodium is coming and is going to depolarize the cell membrane. Depolarize, so means electrolytes coming in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, and they are going to open the doors for calcium. And they're going to go out from the sarcoplasm in the cytoplasm of the cell of the fiber, and this calcium is going to be able to produce the contraction later on. Okay, so we have myosin, actin, troponin. Troponin is going to unblock the actin and the myosin, making calcium, taking away the troponin. The calcium is coming from the sarcoplasm of the fiber, and they are going to release calcium. This release of calcium is caused by the sodium. The sodium is coming after the acetylcholine is going to react with the cholinergic receptors, and that is where the sodium is going to make enter and coming out electrolytes, making some electrical differential potential, and they are going to release the calcium into the troponin. All right, so in conclusion, here we have a sarcomere. Sarcomere is going to be, there's band A, band Z. We are not going to go on that. Is actually not the scope for what we want to know later on. But I want just to see and grab here the myosin. Look at this. It's like a hooks here, right? And the actin is going to be similar. So there, the sarcomere are going to contract, interacting the actin and the myosin, making the decrease of the size of the muscle, so making the contraction. So what are the actin and the myosin? Sliding filaments of part of the mechanism of the skeletal muscle contraction. So here we have one more time, we have the sarcoplasmatic here, calcium. So here we have the dendrites. Here we have the body or soma. So everything I tell you must know, okay? Soma. And then here we have the axon. Can you see like a little sausages here? It's because it's having a lot of myelin, Schwann cells, right? Schwann cells. This is the motor neuron. All this is the motor neuron. From here to here is the motor neuron. And this motor neuron is characterized by the dendrites, body, axon, and terminal axon. Terminal axon that ends into the synapses. Okay, so the electrical impulse is coming, and they are going to release the acetylcholine here. The acetylcholine is going to enter sodium into the cell, and then that is going to go to the T-tubules, and then they go to release the calcium, and the calcium takes the troponin in order to release the actin and the myosin. So that is the small simple mnemonic that you can remember. The electrical impulse release the acetylcholine. The acetylcholine produce the depolarization, the entry of sodium into the cell. The sodium get into the T-tubules. The T-tubules are going to be release from the sarcoplasmatic membrane the calcium. Calcium take the troponin, forget about this. And this is going to release taking the troponin out from between the myosin and actin. That is going to produce that contraction. Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. So here we have some elements that we need to remember. Myoglobin is a protein that is inside the cell, inside the fiber. I'm not going to, muscle cell or fiber is the same. And this myoglobin has the property to attract oxygen. Glycogen, in addition, is a polysaccharide that is inside of the muscular cell or the fiber, and these glycogen basically are going to get deposit where? In the muscles and liver. How much glycogen potentially we can accumulate? 1 pound and 1 pound, so 2 pounds total 2 pounds, and each pound is going to attract 4 pounds of water. 4 pounds of water, so total 8 pounds. So if we have 2 pounds of glycogen plus 2 pounds of water, that is going to lead us to 10 pounds total, that you can lose this in actually 7 to 10 days. All right. Creatine phosphate is a very important, so please open eyes, open ears here in the creatine phosphate. Creatine phosphate is used as a reservoir of phosphorus. Creatine phosphate is going to be a reservoir for phosphorus. Where we see the phosphorus? We see the phosphorus in the ATPs. When the muscle is not having enough phosphorus, that is going to produce ATPs. The creatine phosphate is going to give that phosphate in order to actually complete the formation of ATPs. Okay. In conclusion, all these structures are inside the fiber. All are inside the fiber. And when there is muscle destruction or muscle injury, basically what we measure is the creatine phosphate. So when you have muscle damage, cells are going to rupture, and they are going to release the creatine phosphate. That measured in blood, you can tell if there is some damage or not of the muscle. Okay, let's keep moving. All right, so we have prime movers and we have different type of muscles. Some people say 510 muscles, some others 600 muscles. So this variable, the literature is not, but it's actually between 500 to 600 muscles. What are prime movers? Prime movers, for example, you have the upper extremity. We are going to talk about the biceps, for example. I'm going to give you one example, biceps. What is doing the biceps? Biceps is going to flex the upper extremity, correct? And the triceps, that it will be the antagonist for this action, is going to extension of the upper extremity. So we have agonists or prime movers that are the biceps, and we have the antagonists. So if the biceps are going to contract, producing the flexion of the arm, the triceps need to do the opposite, okay? Because they are pulling in opposite direction, and one of those need to relax in order to make the other effect happen. So if you flex your arm, you are contracting your biceps, and you are relaxing the triceps. If you extend the upper extremity, you're contracting the triceps and you are relaxing the biceps. Okay, so synergism we have, as I mentioned before, under the biceps we have another muscle, is the brachialis muscle, the brachialis. And this brachialis muscle is going to flex when they contract, is going to be similar as the biceps. But the main muscle that is going to take care of let's put it 90% of the contraction of the flexion of the upper extremity is the biceps. And as a helper, we have the muscle brachialis that is under the biceps and produce synergism. So they are going to help each other. Okay. All right. So some muscles that we need to remember, please. Muscles, we have a facial expression. We have orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis oculi. Open your eyes, open your ears. Orbicularis oculi. The orbicularis oris. Orbicularis oris. Okay. Levator of the palpebral superior. So we have other muscles that are going to make part going to be similar as or around the orbicularis oculi. Buccinator, another muscle important. The buccinator is here. Here we have, if you whistle, the buccinator is working. Okay, so if you whistle, buccinator. And now for chewing and mastication, just remember mastication, masseter muscle. Masseter muscle. Masseter muscle. All right, so here we are going to see the rotator cuff. We have the supraspinatus. This is the scapula. And superior, we have the supraspinatus, infraspinatus. Spina means spine. This is kind of a spine, right? It's called a spine. So supra, above the spine, infra, below the spine. We have the teres minor. That is, all of these are coming, if you notice, coming from the tendon, common tendon, from the humerus. So tendon here, and anterior we have the subscapularis that is not seen, showing here. We have 4 muscles, rotator cuff, 4 muscles, okay? So you cannot reach your, for example, when you want to have a shower and you have put a soap on your back, coming from inferiorly, so this rotator cuff is going to cause pain if there is some tear of a small tear sometimes happen of this tendon. So that is how we recognize that. All right, so we have the brachialis, that is the synergetic muscle with the biceps brachii. Biceps is the same to say biceps brachii. We have triceps, is the same to say the triceps brachii, is the same. All right, so here we have important, open eyes, open ears here, please. Here we have the muscles of the respiration. Diaphragm. The diaphragm is going to be the most important muscle for the inspiration. And the intercostal muscles are going to be the most important for the expiration. Inspiration is the same to say inhalation. Expiration is the same to say exhalation. Okay? All right, so these muscles are important to remember, that are the primary muscles of the respiratory process, or what we call the ventilation. Ventilation is how your muscles move the thorax in order to produce the inspiration and the expiration. So that process, that movement is called the ventilation. Remember which muscles are corresponding to what. Well, the most important for inspiration, diaphragm. The most important for expiration, the intercostal muscles. Okay, so here we have this the anterior wall of the abdomen, anterior wall of the abdomen, anterior wall of the abdomen. We are going to have basically important the rectus abdominis. You need to put in yellow if you want here. Rectus abdominis, rectus abdominis. We have the obliques, two obliques. Okay, two obliques, two obliques. The external oblique is coming, is going this way, like this, and the internal oblique go in the opposite direction, like this. So internal and external oblique. So those are going to be covering the anterior wall of the abdomen. Another one is the transversus abdominal or transverse muscle, the transverse muscle, transverse muscle. So you can remember with the word root, right? R means the rectus abdominis, rectus, oblique, oblique, and the transverse. Rectus, oblique, oblique, and the transverse. Rectus, oblique, oblique, and the transverse. Okay, open eyes, open ears again. Okay, okay. All right, so here we have the perineum, and something that I would like to mention here is about the levator ani muscle. We have three of these elevator muscle. Three elevator. So what is the importance of the elevator of this elevator muscle? So we have here one. We have actually we have under that is going to be another three muscles that are going to be actually make the support of the perineum. So all the internal organs of the pelvis are going to be supported by a kind of a sling on the perineum, and that sling is make it principal mainly by the levator ani muscles. Okay, the levator ani muscles. Okay, so here we have the gluteus maximus. This is the thigh and leg. We have the gluteus medius, the iliopsoas. Okay, so that is the main muscles we want to remember. Iliopsoas is going to flex your leg. So if you're standing up like this, so you're going to flex your leg. Oh, sorry. You're going to flex your leg. Let me see, like this. Okay, so they're going to go, and the other foot is here. Okay, so you're elevating. Okay, elevating the thigh. So that is actually flexing the thigh or flexing the hip. That is what is doing the iliopsoas. Flexing the hip. When you do this, you standing up or laying down, you put your thigh towards your abdomen. That is flexure of the hip flexure, and that is done by the iliopsoas muscle. The iliopsoas, this muscle we are talking here, iliopsoas muscle. Gluteus maximus and the gluteus medius. So gluteus maximus is developed in adult. In children are not very well developed, the gluteus maximus. And the gluteus mediums are actually the area where we going to put injectables, intramuscular injections. Why? Because in children, the gluteus maximus is not very well developed. So we need to go in lateral approach, laterally. Otherwise, the needle is too big. They can actually go towards the bone or some nerve area. Another thing here, we have the gastrocnemius muscle and the Achilles tendon. Gastrocnemius muscle, one gastrocnemius muscle here, and then we have another gastrocnemius muscle here. So those are the two muscles that form the calf, right? The calf. And this is one gastrocnemius muscle, another gastrocnemius muscle. We have two gastrocnemius muscle. They are going to join together to the calcaneus, that is a portion of the bones of the foot, and produce the Achilles tendon, the Achilles tendon. Okay. Okay, so here we have Here I want you to remember two terms here. We have, before we go to this terminology, especially this myasthenia gravis, I'm going to go to two terms of the muscle. We have, and that is a review because I know that you have it in previous class, or I mentioned that before. Flaccid muscle and tetanic muscle. Tetanic muscle. Tetanic muscle is a continuous contraction. Okay, that stay contracted. It's like a cramp, right? So contraction of the muscle and stay like this. So tetanic muscle. And the opposite is a relaxed muscle. And you use this term is when the muscle cannot contract. So the muscle stay flaccid. And here we call tetanic when the muscle cannot relax. So means stay contracted. Okay? So this is huge. So please pay attention to this. Okay? All right. So here we have a myasthenia gravis. What is a myasthenia gravis? This is no pathology, but definitely is we need to talk about that because this is very common to see in your next courses, and you will see that this is kind of not uncommon to see outside in your practice. Myasthenia gravis is the autoimmune disorder that is going to block the receptors of the acetylcholine. Where are the receptors of the acetylcholine? In the muscle, are in the NMJ. NMJ is going to have receptors. This is the NMJ receptors for acetylcholine, and this belongs to the fiber of the muscle. Okay, so what happened is that in the myasthenia gravis autoimmune disease, the white cells, the lymphocytes, are going to auto-destroy your own body, and what they are going to do is to going to destroy the NMJ. So there is no place for the receptors to release the acetylcholine or receive the acetylcholine, and as a consequence, there is no contraction. So what happened with this myasthenia gravis? You're going to have basically flaccid muscles. I'm going to give you a little bit here. Myasthenia gravis. So basically, if we want to make the what is the treatment for this guy? It's going to increase the amount of acetylcholine. Even though that we have low number of acetylcholine, we providing more acetylcholine in order to keep using the few receptors that can still around there. So that's why we give acetylcholine in myasthenia gravis. And the problem with this is in myasthenia gravis, if you have flaccid muscles, your respiratory muscles like the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles are going to fail. And what you having is the respiratory arrest. Okay? So myasthenia gravis, what means myasthenia? And that is open eyes, open ears. Myasthenia gravis means weak muscle. Okay, weak muscle. That is called myasthenia. Asthenia means weakness. Myo means muscle weakness. So weakness of the muscle. That is what it means myasthenia gravis. Okay, myasthenia gravis. Basically, the treatment of this is give acetylcholine or cholinergic agents 30 minutes before meals. Why is that? Because when you are swallowing, there is a group of muscles that are going to participate in the swallowing. So they need muscle contraction. So in order not to get the patient malnourished, because it's for life, this disease, they are going to provide a little bit more strength. 30 minutes before the meals, you give acetylcholine to make some increase the strength of the strength of the muscles of the swallowing, so the patient can eat relatively normal. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel syndrome. We have, let me see if I have, no, I don't have that. So here we have in the hand, I'm going to try to draw a hand, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, hand, I guess. Okay, and here we have in the wrist, we have what we call an aponeurosis. That is like fibrous tissue, and under that is running. So you have your hand. This is the palm. Okay, I don't know, palm, whatever, the palm of the hand. And you see here that here is going to be this membrane, because as aponeurosis are going to cover the nerves that are coming to make innervation of the hand. We have the radial, the ulnar, and we have the median. So this is going to produce compression because you use basically very often that the wrist, and that can produce inflammation. This inflammation compress what is below that is the median, especially the median nerve. And the median nerve is the one who produces numbness, tingling, a lot of pain, and that's called the carpal tunnel syndrome. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, so let's make a small break here. I'm going to, where is my, just a moment, I'm going to, all right, thank you again. Welcome to the second part of the webinar. Today we are going to complete our information talking about the nervous system and the nervous tissue and the brain. So basically what we will do in this part is to talk about the central nervous system. And for that, we need to just remember what is the division of the nervous system. The nervous system, the nervous system, where is that? The nervous system is going to be divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Okay? So this is the second part. We are going to talk about that next class. Okay, we are going to go to Serengeti River again, so we will talk about that one more time. Okay, so central nervous system is the topic for right this moment. The central nervous system is called because it's in the center of the body. That's why it's called the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is composed by all these structures you see here, all these structures. So what are structures are these? So first of all, this portion is called the brain. All this portion is called the brain. And all this portion is called the spinal cord. Spinal cord. All right, so when we are talking about central nervous system, what is the central nervous system? Brain plus spinal cord. That is the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is going to be divided in the brain, that is at the same time divided into the cerebrum, cerebellum, all the brain stem, and we are going to include the diencephalon, diencephalon. Okay, so we have how many? Brain, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 structures, basically main components of the brain. Okay, so the spinal cord is going to be called the medulla. And I start to say medulla because there is another medulla here. This medulla is properly called the medulla oblongata. Oblongata means wider in Greek, means wider. If you see here, this is the medulla oblongata, all this. If you see here, it's more wider than the continuation of this medulla, that is the called the spinal cord. This transition is going through the foramen magnum. So the medulla oblongata is going to leave the cranial cavity through the foramen magnum, that is part of the occipital bone, correct? Occipital bone. Foramen means cavity, okay, space, opening, sorry. And that is going to change name, and now is going to be called the medulla or spinal cord. Okay, so this is medulla, is part of the brain stem. Medulla oblongata is part of the brain stem, midbrain, pons, and medulla. From here, they are coming the cranial nerves. Remember the cranial nerves? How many pairs? 12 pairs of cranial nerves. Okay, so here we have what we was talking. CNS, brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system, somatic, autonomic. That somatic is the voluntary, and the autonomic, the involuntary. I'm not going to talk about that until next class. All right, so we have the brain, we have the cerebral hemispheres, Hemi means half, spheres means rounded. Just a moment, my machine is in, my battery is down. Just a moment, just a moment. Oh, okay. Okay, so we have cerebral hemispheres. Cerebral hemispheres, we have two frontals. This is the frontal, two frontal, right and left. We have two parietals. This is the parietal, right and left. We have two temporals, right and left, and we have two occipitals, right and left. So those are the lobes. When you're talking about bones, you have one frontal and one bone occipital. But when we are talking about lobes, they're actually a pair. Okay, so here we have another question for, open eyes, open ears, is the longitudinal fissure. Where is the longitudinal fissure? Please write it down 3 times. Is this one. Is the fissure, is the space that is in between the right and the left hemispheres. So this line you see here, that is the longitudinal fissure. All this. Oh my God, I cannot go straight. Okay. Okay, so that is the longitudinal fissure. We have the lobes. Okay, we have the lobes. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 lobes. We have the diencephalon. The diencephalon that is in the center, remember, are the seeds of the orange, right? The seed of the orange are going to be the diencephalon. Question for the for midterm, quiz, etc. What is the where is the diencephalon? Diencephalon is immersed on the cerebral tissue, and the diencephalon is formed by gray matter. So please don't forget that. It's going to be formed by gray matter. Gray matter means those are the cells who are the thinkers, the commanders, the one who make decisions. So the gray matter. We have gray matter in the cortex of the brain, right? The cortex of the brain are going to be gray matter too. So we have gray matter who are gray matter, the diencephalon, and the cerebral cortex of every lobe is going to have a cortex, of course. We have the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, remember, is the homeostasis, right? That is going to be connecting with the endocrine system. So we have homeostasis, stasis, that is a relation between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Which is the nervous system? The hypothalamus. And what is the endocrine system? Is the pituitary gland. Open eyes, open ears. The pituitary gland is a gland, it's not nervous system. Pituitary gland. So this is below or under the hypothalamus. So they are actually communicating very close. Brainstem, we already talked about that. Cerebellum, and we are going to see one of these. What are the functions of each of them? We have the meninges. Meninges are the covers of the central nervous system. So please, meninges do not cover only the cerebrum or the cerebellum or only the brainstem. They cover everything. All the central nervous system that is composed by the brain plus the spinal cord, all of these are covered by three membranes. Those are the meninges. The outer layer is going to be the dura mater. The layer that is closer to the brain tissue is the pia mater. And in between we have the arachnoid membrane. Dura mater, arachnoid membrane, the pia mater are the names. So if you have here, let me see, I will see here, let me see. Okay, so here we have, for example, it's not clear here. I'm going to try to draw. So here we have the brain tissue. This is the brain tissue. Here's the brain tissue. Here we are going to have a membrane that is closer to the brain tissue, is the pia mater. Then we have here the arachnoid membrane, that is the arachnoid membrane, arachnoid, and on the top a very thick layer, that is the dura mater. Right? So this is your brain, and here we have between the arachnoid and the pia mater, we have a space where it's going to run the cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid. So this is going to be the cerebral spinal fluid here, all this area. This area is going to be the dura mater. Here, this is going to be the arachnoid. This is the subarachnoid space, all this, because it's below the arachnoid. And here we have the pia mater and the brain tissue. All right, so what are the functions? Open big eyes, your ears, please. Okay, so here we have, by the way, ojo. Ojo means in Latin, in Spanish, eye. Okay, anyhow, so we have here these functions of the CSF. CSF is going to be produced about 600 mL per day. So it's a lot of fluid. And this is going to be function to make cushion from shock. You hit your head and it's covered by fluid. This fluid is going to absorb the mechanical forces of mechanical forces of when you hit your head, for example. So it's going to cushions are going to have as a cushion for shock. They are going to have nutrients to the cells and is going to transport the waste product. Okay, it's going to transport the waste product. Okay, so this is coming, so please pay attention. All right, so who produce, we have neural cavities. I'm going to keep going. Can you see here, this is the meninge. This is the gyri, sulci, right? The cerebrum, right and left. Here we have the longitudinal fissure running in the middle of between the parietals. Here, this membrane, can you see this like a paper or thick area membrane covering? That is those are the meninges. Okay, so here we need to talk about the lobes. The frontal lobe, what is going to do is motor activity, motor plus cognitive activity. Your focus, when you are learning, you are understanding, when you want to run, when you want to sit, motor activity, those are the frontal area. Parietal is the sensorial area where you feel all the what you touch, right? All the all the sensations are going to be through the parietal lobe. Temporal lobe are going to be the hearing. Occipital lobe is going to be the vision. Okay, and these are going to be interconnected, right? So whatever information have the frontal, they are going to share with the parietal, they share with the occipital, they share with the temporal, the parietal with the frontal, parietal with the etc. So all the connections that you can imagine are going to occur in the brain. All the connections, all the pathways. So that is on one side, the right side. But then it's going to be the other hemisphere, the left side. The right and the left side, they need to share information, and that is caused by, that is going to be made by the corpus callosum. Important, open eyes, open ears again. Corpus callosum is white matter and is going to communicate the right and left cerebral hemispheres. Okay, very good. All right, so here we have the pathways that we was mentioned before, and this is a coronal view, coronal view of the central nervous system. Here we have, can you see these like undulations here, and this like a small, I'm going to change color. Here, this area, from here to here, this is the cortex. Cortex. This is the skin of the orange that we was talking in the past, right? Here, can you see here the longitudinal fissure? This is the longitudinal fissure. And if you put your finger all the way down, put your finger here all the way down, separate the two hemispheres, you're going to reach this area. Can you see this area? So you cannot go further, right? This is the corpus callosum. This is the corpus callosum. Here is the corpus callosum. All this go from anterior, posterior. So it's not like only here. It's running from anterior to posterior. It's like a plate, like a plate coming from anterior, posterior, and that, can you see, going to communicate the right and the left hemispheres. Okay, here in the center we have the diencephalon. In the diencephalon, we are going to see what? The thalamus and the hypothalamus, correct? Okay, this is a foreventricle, so that means, well, it doesn't matter. So here we have the, this is the going to be the pyramidal pathways. What are pyramidal pathways? Pyramidal pathways is because they're coming from the name pyramidal nerves or pyramidal neurons. Where are these pyramidal nerves or neurons? They are located in the gray matter. So the real name of the gray matter cells are the pyramidal nerves. There's other ones, but the main ones are pyramidal. Where are the pyramidal cells? Here, in the cortex. In the cortex. It's going to be located in the cortex. So I'm going to make another color here. In the cortex. Here is the cortex. This is the cortex. So here is where they live, the pyramidal nerves. And these pyramidal nerves are going to send orders to the white matter. Can you see this is the white matter? And the white matter is going to be all the connections that we was talking already. And here we have this going from a superior, they're going all the way down through the brain stem. This is the midbrain. This portion is the midbrain. This portion is the pons, and this portion is the medulla oblongata. So all this is the brain stem. All this is the brain stem. Okay? And saying that, we are going to see that in the medulla oblongata, this is the medulla oblongata is going to be the cardiovascular respiratory center. Very important center. Okay, so where is located? Here. Look at that. Here. This is the medulla oblongata. Okay, and this medulla oblongata is going to have the pathways coming from one side. They are going to make a crossover. It's called that decussation. There's different. They call different names. Decussation, crossover, decussation. or crossover. So they go from one side to another side. And from the one side, they go to the opposite side. So that means if you have a stroke here, this brain portion of the brain is damaged, the lesion is going to occur here on the opposite side. So if you have a stroke on the right side, your left side of your body is going to be affected. If you have a stroke in the left side, the right side of the body is going to be affected. Just to review here again, the lobes, we have here the gyrus, we have the sulcus, sulci with I at the end when it's plural. We have the gyri, the ends in I when it's plural, right? And here we have, can you see here? This is the cortex. Again, the cortex. Cortex, you can call gray matter too. Cortex or gray matter. Gray matter of the cerebrum. Cerebral gray matter. Because gray matter, we have the diencephalon too. So just to differentiate that. So this is where we have the pyramidal nerves. So it's the nerves here. Pyramidal nerves that are going to form this pathway later on. Okay, so this is the white matter. And just to review, open eyes, open ears, the white matter is white because they have the myelin. The myelin, have the myelin. And the gray matter, the cortex, can you see cortex, gray matter here? This is the nerve cell here. Those do not contain myelin, no myelin. That is in the cortex or the gray matter. So the commanders do not need actually the myelin. All right, so here we have frontal lobe, motor area plus cognitive. That's what I want you to remember, the cognitive. We have parietal, this is the sensory area. You hit your finger, your foot is painful, something is painful in your body. Who knows that? The parietal lobe. Temporal lobe is the auditory area. Because why I put that? Because it's just too easy to remember. We have the cranial nerve number 8. So this looks like an ear, right? So cranial nerve number 8 is the vestibulocochlear nerve. Well, anyhow, but it's the area of audition. I'm not going to go there. It's the area of audition, auditory area. Occipital is the visual area. Here we have the corpus callosum. See, this is the longitudinal fissure. You put your finger inside. You have a top here. That is, can you see the corpus callosum going here? So it's not like a line. It's wider. It's very wide. It's wide, and it's going anterior posterior in this form, and that is where it's going to be the corpus callosum. You see here from anterior. This is from posterior view, and this is from anterior view. So that is the corpus callosum. What is it going to do? Communicate the right and the left, right? Okay. Talking about the thalamus, hypothalamus. Hypothalamus maintain the homeostasis. We already talked about that. We have the limbic system, and the limbic system is here. Let me see. Let me see if I have a view here. This is a too posterior view, so it's at the level so that cut was made here in this area. So that's why we don't see the diencephalon in this view, because it's too posterior, that coronal view. Okay, so let's continue what we have. Okay, so the limbic system is, if you see here, we have the brain. Here we already talked that this is the diencephalon, please, diencephalon. This is diencephalon. Here is going to be the basal ganglia, and here we have the limbic system. So here is the limbic system. This guy is the basal ganglia. that produce the dopamine. It's going to be lower when you have Parkinson. And here we have the diencephalon. Diencephalon. The diencephalon is going to be located in the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Okay. All right. So side by side, right? Diencephalon, basal ganglia, and the limbic system. The limbic system that is lateral to the basal ganglia, we are going to see that we have the hippocampus, the RAS, we have the amygdalas. That is, we are not going to talk about this time, I guess. Yes, they are going to be the portion of the emotions and behavior, and long-term memory, limbic system, long-term memory, okay, limbic system, long-term memory, emotional states, your behavior. The brainstem now here, we have, I want you to remember especially this portion, this is the brainstem. We have midbrain, we have pons, and we have medulla oblongata. In the medulla oblongata, we have the respiratory center. So it's the responsible for the ventilation. You know what is ventilation, right? Ventilation is inspiration plus expiration. Okay, so that is ventilation. All right, so cardiac center, the heart rate, okay? Vasomotor, the contractility of the heart, too, cardiac center. Vasomotor is the vasodilation, vasoconstriction. And don't forget the medulla oblongata, we have we have the opposite of the contralateral pathway of the nerves. It's called the crossover, okay, of the fiber. So where is the crossover? Here. So let's go here again. This is the medulla oblongata, right? Here we have the cardiovascular center. We have the respiratory center. And we have the decussation or crossover of the fibers, okay? So that is important. All right, cerebellum. Cerebellum is the portion of the central nervous system who is going to be for balance and coordination. Balance and coordination. Balance and coordination. This is the cerebellum. Look at this. Cerebellum here in this picture is posterior, basically located in the base of the posterior fossa of the cranium. So here's the cerebellum. Cerebellum means a small brain. And in the past, they didn't know what was the function, but actually the function in the past, many 100 years ago, anyhow. So here we have the cerebellum, function, coordination, and balance. Here we have the right hemisphere. So we have two hemispheres, similar as the cerebrum. Another cerebellum here. So we have two parts. And in the center is a connection. This connection is called the vermis. So this cerebellum is going, the right and left, they connect each other. They are going to share information to each other. They are going to share information with the rest of the central nervous system. They are going to share information simultaneously to the pons, to the medulla oblongata, to the midbrain, to the other hemisphere of the cerebellum, to the frontal, occipital, temporals, parietal lobes. So all simultaneous. Okay, because everything needs to coordinate at the same time. All right, so don't forget about the vermis. And if you put your finger here, the coordination is going to be gone. So you're going to literally fall immediately. Okay, well, I have a picture bigger here. Okay. The ventricular system are actually a space and space where the cerebral spinal fluid is going to be formed. So if we have, it's like, and these are the ventricles. So these are modifications of the pia mater that are going to be immersed inside the brain. So if you open here, there is a tunnel. There's a channel. Look like a bird, right? A bird walking. I don't know what kind of monster is that, but definitely looks like a small bird. Just to remember, lateral third ventricle, aqueduct sylvius, fourth ventricle, and besides the names that I don't want you to remember, I want you to know that inside here are going to be formed the cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid. Cerebral spinal fluid. And you already know the cushion, waste, the nutrition, nourishment are going to be that, right? Okay, so if you see here, this portion, if you see this portion, can you see this big area? This one. This is the lateral ventricle. Just to give you a name. I mean, the name of this portion, lateral ventricle. If you see for anterior, so this lateral ventricle is this, for example. This is the lateral ventricle. Just to give you one portion of the ventricular system. And you see here, if you have a coronal view, you see cavities inside. So that is the lateral ventricle that is being carried in coronal view. So what we have here inside is the choroid plexus. This choroid plexus are choroid plexus is the ones who form the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid. The cerebral spinal fluid. All right, so here we have one problem that it could be, for example, I will tell you something here about, let me see. Okay, this one. Okay, look at this. This is the, if you see here, this is the ventricular system. This is the CSF, this in blue, CSF. The CSF is going to travel, form here from the choroid plexus, and they're going to go all the way down. And where they go to the subarachnoid space. So the CSF is going to drain into the subarachnoid space. Where at the level of the cisterna magna. Cisterna magna, we are not going to talk about that. Anyhow, if you want, I want you to remember a few things here. Can you imagine, can you remember that we was having the three membranes here covering all the central nervous system? 1, 2, and 3, right? So those are the meninges. The meninges we have here, the dura mater, the arachnoid, and between the arachnoid and the pia mater, this should be here, the pia mater, we have fluid. That is the subarachnoid space. Dura mater, arachnoid membrane, pia mater. In between the arachnoid and the pia mater, we have a space where it's running the CSF. CSF. And the CSF is surrounding the whole central nervous system, from the brain to the spinal cord. All right, so we are not going to talk about the jugular veins. It's very interesting, but it's actually too much information until we have the next class. We are going to complete that. Okay, so just here, just to was trying to show you some application here. This is the tissue of the brain tissue. Close to the brain tissue, we have the pia mater, very attached to very close to the brain tissue. Then we have the arachnoid membrane and the dura mater. This is the bone of the galea, the cranial bone, okay? And here we have the dura mater, arachnoid, pia mater. In between the arachnoid and the pia mater, we have the subarachnoid space. Subarachnoid space where it's running what? It's running the CSF, okay? Kernel nerves are going to not talk this time. I'm going to mention for next class about the nervous tissue. Okay. I think we finished.